Okay, let's unpack this. We're doing a deep dive today into something that I think touches on one of the biggest, most intimate life changes a person can go through,
Parenthood?
parenthood. But specifically, we're looking at it through the eyes of an author who really dared to document the messy, the raw, and often the deeply painful truth of it.
Right. And she contrasts that truth so sharply with the idealized story that we all, usually get told. We're focusing on excerpts from Bao Zhaoxia's work, which was originally a comic series, and her working title for it really says it all. It's the whole premise for our discussion today.
What was it?
I thought having a baby was just hitting pause on my life.
Wow. Yeah, that title is, it's just so immediate. It's brilliant.
Isn't it?
Because it just perfectly captures this massive modern cultural expectation, this idea that we can manage this profound biological emotional change.
Like it's a project.
Exactly. Like it's a project plan. You assume you can just put your existing life on standby, right?
Yeah.
Your career, your identity, your fitness routine, all of it.
You just put it on hold.
Yeah, you do the baby thing, take a year, maybe two, and then you just seamlessly resume being your old self.
It really does speak to this hyper-organized, sort of achievement-focused culture we live in. We treat these huge life events like they're just items on a checklist. We plan for the outcome, but we completely forget to account for the utter transformation of the self during the process.
So our mission today is to really explore her account, which she captured in these comics, and to see why the reality she found was so much less of a pause,
And much more of a reset.
a monumental, unavoidable, and often really messy reset.
And I think this dive isn't just for people thinking about having kids.
Not at all.
It's really for anyone who's curious about that deep-seated transformation that comes with any major life event.
A career pivot, a big move.
A serious illness, anything. When the foundations of your life just shift, how do you handle the actual unvarnished truth of it?
That is exactly why this is so important. Because it immediately gets to that central tension, right?
Yeah.
The huge gap between our expectation of control.
And the reality of surrender.
Yes. She went into this thinking it would be a temporary halt, a minor interruption.
What she discovered, what she documents with just such brutal honesty, is that this kind of event, it fundamentally changes who you are. It demands a total reconstruction of the self.
And the story of just getting the book published in the first place is, I think, a perfect illustration of how desperately society clings to that pause narrative.
Oh, absolutely. It's a fascinating look at the sort of the gatekeeping that happens in publishing.
So what happened there?
Well, Bereshaksia shares that after she'd been drawing and posting her comics online for about 3 months, her work started getting a lot of attention. And several editors were immediately interested in turning it into a book. She was, understandably thrilled.
Of course. She even mentioned she was already imagining the fun parts, like doing book signings and coming up with her signature.
She was celebrating it was this huge affirmation of her story and her talent. But then the reality check hit. She got a pretty significant rejection from the chief editor who was overseeing the whole deal.
So the junior editors loved it, but the person with the final say
Killed the project.
Yeah.
And the editor who had been championing the book actually told Bao Zhaoxia the explicit reason why it was rejected.
And this is such a crucial detail. It boils down to 3 specific words translated from Chinese. The topic was judged to be unpleasant, too painful, too real.
And that's where we really need to slow down and think. Unpleasant, painful, and real.
Yeah.
Why are those 3 qualities so difficult for the market and, by extension for society to digest? What are we trying to protect ourselves from?
Well, it feels like admitting to those things is admitting to a kind of failure, doesn't it? If something is painful, it means your plan wasn't good enough.
Right, your expectations were wrong.
And if it's unpleasant, it violates this modern rule that everything has to be beautiful and inspiring and shareable.
And if it's too real...
If it's too real, it threatens the whole fantasy, the whole illusion that life is something you can totally control.
Exactly. And the chief editor's final, very pragmatic objection just hammered that point home. He said, mainly, it won't sell. I mean, that is the clearest sign that the commercial success of a story like this is often, well, it's inversely proportional to how honest it is.
You can sell the dream.
You can sell inspiration, you can sell a dream, but you can't easily sell the deep, messy, painful labor that goes into it.
And you mentioned that the editor tried to soften it a bit by saying, our chief editor is a man, sort of implying it was a gendered thing.
He did, but Bao Zhaoxia had a much deeper take on it, a more sociological one.
What did she think?
She speculated that the resistance wasn't just a male-female issue, even though, gender dynamics obviously complicate the whole story of motherhood. She framed it as a human problem.
A human problem. What does that mean?
I think it connects back to that fear of losing control we were talking about. She suggested that this avoidance might be tied to a much bigger anxiety, a fear that the truth is just so hard that if people really knew it, everyone is unwilling to give birth anymore.
Wow.
It's this collective societal impulse to sanitize the difficult parts of life, not just for other people, but for ourselves.
If we don't look at the truth, maybe we don't have to admit what it really costs.
Exactly. And that lets us maintain this comforting illusion that everything is easy and, well, marketable.
It's so disheartening. But in a strange way, that rejection immediately proves her whole point.
It absolutely does.
It tells us that the truth she's sharing is being actively filtered out by the system, which makes her work so essential. It's almost subversive.
A counter-narrative.
Yeah. Okay, so let's transition into some of those specific realities. The things that were so shocking, they almost kept this book from ever being published. We're diving into the core ideas now, starting with this first concept, the shock of reality.
The fear factor.
The fear factor. Why the actual physical truth of this stuff scares us so much.
And it really is about the specifics. Bao doesn't just talk about pain in a general way. She gives you real-life evidence of how people react to the details.
She tells this great story about a close friend. This friend, before she decided to have a baby, told the author she was going to make her husband read the comic 3 times.
To prepare him.
To fully prepare him. And Bao was, initially so happy about this, she was thinking, great, my work is serving its purpose as a realistic guide.
I mean, that's the best compliment for an artist, right?
Yeah.
Utility. That your truth-telling is seen as necessary education.
But then, the punchline comes. Her friend and her husband, well, they ended up postponing having a baby. Indefinitely. And the first thought that popped into Bao head was, oh no, could it be that they were scared off by my comic?
And that anecdote just perfectly illustrates how potent, honest detail can be.
It's so true.
It wasn't the abstract idea of a baby that was scary. It was the documented, specific roadmap of what the process actually involved that made them hit the brakes.
The comic wasn't just a manual for success. It was a map of the emotional labor and the physical trauma.
And that changed the entire equation for them.
It makes you wonder, why is reading a comic strip about the reality of birth more frightening than, say, reading a dry clinical textbook on it?
Well, a comic strip gives you context and motion, I think. A textbook is objective, you can keep it at a distance.
Right.
But her art is so subjective and immediate, it makes you feel like you are right there in the room with her.
And that feeling, that immediacy, it brings us to the second anecdote, which is even more visceral because it gets into very specific technical and, frankly, kind of invasive terminology.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. This is where that rejection of the real becomes so clear. She showed a comic she'd just finished to a single friend. It was all about the preparation for an episiotomy.
Which, for anyone who doesn't know, is a surgical cut they make to widen the opening during labor.
Exactly. And the preparation she details is so specific. She writes about doing vaginal expansion exercises to try and make the process easier.
Just hearing that phrase is enough to make you cringe a little bit, right?
It is. It forces the physical mechanics of birth right into your mind, and it completely defies that, soft focus, sanitized image we always see in ads.
Totally. And her friend's reaction was just explosive.
What does she do?
Just from seeing the words, the clinical terms mixed with the blunt description, she immediately cried out in alarm, covered her eyes.
Oh my gosh.
Yelled, oh my God, I haven't even looked, and I already feel the pain. I dare not look. She just shut down completely.
Wow. That immediate full-body rejection of the reality. It just says so much about our societal boundaries, doesn't it?
It really does.
We glorify the end result, the beautiful, healthy baby, but we basically mandate a total blackout on the process it took to get there.
It's too much information. It's too messy, too painful.
We're conditioned to think of the body as this smooth-running machine, not as a battlefield that might require surgical cuts and, pre-training expansion exercises.
Like, we want the achievement without ever acknowledging the price of admission. And it seems like this resistance isn't just about a physical fear of pain. It's about the fear of losing control over the idealized story of motherhood, or really any big life change.
We want it to be this beautiful spiritual moment.
Right. Not a technical, surgical, and deeply physical challenge.
Which brings us back to her analysis of this as a societal taboo, a human problem.
Yes.
Her insight suggests that avoiding these details is a fundamental human coping mechanism. We do it to sanitize the difficult realities of life's major rites of passage.
We just crave simplicity and comfort.
And these comics, they don't offer either of those things. They force you to look at the messy, complicated plumbing of existence.
And this isn't just about childbirth.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
You see it in career changes, too.
Oh, totally. Someone quits a stable job to start their own business, and all they share is the highlight reel.
The moment the big client signed, the launch day.
They don't share the vaginal expansion exercises of entrepreneurship, the anxiety attacks at 3 a.m., the quiet failures, the financial panic.
No. And that self-censorship ensures that the myth of the pause, the myth that transitions are clean and controllable, it just stays intact for the next person.
But the brilliance of what she does in her preface is that she doesn't let the conversation just stop there at the shock and the pain.
Not at all. She pivots immediately to the monumental significance of the experience.
And that takes us to the second core concept, the magnificent unveiling, creating and recreating.
Yes.
This is where the emotional pendulum just swings completely the other way. And it shows that the reality wasn't just painful, it was profound.
It's a phenomenal shift in perspective. After wading through all of that clinical, painful, often embarrassing detail, she concludes that giving birth was the most magnificent thing she had done in her entire, ordinary, plain first 30 years of life.
That is just a staggering statement. The most magnificent thing.
It is.
She recognized it not as an interruption, but as a true feat, a feat she probably won't ever repeat.
And that recontextualizes all of the pain, doesn't it? The episiotomy worries, the lost sleep, the identity crisis. They become necessary steps towards something truly grand.
The scale of it goes beyond personal discomfort and into something almost philosophical.
Exactly. The act itself, creating and shaping a life. That recognition, the sheer power involved in bringing a new person into the world, is what elevates the whole experience above just being a temporary inconvenience or source of pain.
It's a literal act of creation. It changes the fabric of reality around you.
But the most monumental insight, and the one that really dismantles that initial title, that myth of the pause, is the phenomenon of self-shaping. She didn't just create a baby. She was forced to create a new self to handle that creation.
So it wasn't just Sungsun being born.
Precisely. She realized that after her baby was born, she was also at the same time recreating and shaping myself.
That's the critical realization.
It is. It shifts the whole narrative from being an external event to an internal revolution. It wasn't just something that happened to her. It was something that fundamentally redefined her.
She used this wonderful phrase. She said, "I felt like a fresh person." And she noted, "This is marvelous." And this, she says, is the truly beautiful side of it all.
The trauma and the transformation are two sides of the same coin.
You can't have one without the other.
And by connecting those two dualities, she shows us that the greatness doesn't erase the pain. It doesn't stand apart from it. The magnificence incorporates it.
So the process of creation demands a kind of destruction.
A destruction, or at least a total annihilation of the former self. The person who really believed life could just be paused.
That old, predictable, controllable identity had to die.
So the fresh person could be born right alongside the child.
It's the ultimate proof that the reset is actually better than the pause, even if that reset feels like a wrecking ball while it's happening. So what does all of this mean for you, for the listener, who might be facing your own personal wrecking ball?
Your own monumental challenge.
Let's move into our reflections on this and really focus on the language of authenticity she uses to capture this huge emotional landscape.
I think it's the unfiltered record she created that makes the work so powerful. She wasn't sanitizing her diary for an audience. She was using the comic format as a necessary emotional release valve.
She documented moments that just defy any easy summary. A polished anecdote you might tell at a dinner party.
Right.
She documented the gasping, the tears streaming, the moments of mixed joy and sorrow.
These aren't just snapshots of a transition. They're snapshots of maximum emotional and physical duress.
And maybe even more important, she captured the internal stuff. The things that are so hard to share with words.
Like what?
The worries that were just too vague to really express. The touches that couldn't be transmitted. And, I think this is so crucial, the thanks that were never spoken.
All the gratitude you feel in the moment, but it just gets lost in the chaos and the exhaustion.
Exactly. And this is where her chosen medium, her art, became a kind of therapy for her.
Because she couldn't express these overwhelming, complex, sometimes conflicting emotions verbally.
She had to channel them through art. She had to find a whole new language for her internal revolution.
And we have to remember her background here. She wasn't a professional artist who'd been doing this for years.
Right.
She was a self-taught comic artist who literally only started drawing right before her baby was born.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
The need to process these experiences was so intense, it actually forced her to learn a new creative skill from scratch.
That's incredible dedication to capturing the truth.
And it shows how the magnitude of a life event can force you to evolve your whole way of communicating.
And she used the medium so flexibly. She said she'd use it sometimes as a normal comic strip, sometimes more like a detailed essay to unpack complex thoughts.
And
And
sometimes,
sometimes, she admitted, she used it as a diary to complain.
I love that. That admission is so important.
It is.
That she used it as a diary to complain. She gave herself permission to just vent, to be frustrated, to be messy, to be openly negative about parts of it.
All the things that the conventional, idealized parenting story strictly forbids.
And by using all these different styles in the book, she makes sure that the complexity of her, one, real story is conveyed honestly. It defies simple labels like comedy or tragedy.
So we talked about that painful rejection she faced at first, with the editor saying her work was unmarketable because it was unpleasant, painful, and real.
Mm-hmm.
But even if we acknowledge it's a difficult truth, is there any validity to that editor's point about marketability? I mean, does the truth sometimes demand too much emotional labor from the reader to sell?
That is a really important question, and I think, yes, there is a pragmatic reality there. The majority of commercial content, it aims to provide emotional relief, not emotional labor.
Right.
Bashaksia's work demands that you feel uncomfortable. It demands that you confront your own anxieties about control and pain.
So that will naturally limit its initial commercial appeal compared to, a simple feel-good book.
Absolutely.
So how did it end up succeeding? The story didn't end without rejection.
It succeeded because authenticity is its own kind of powerful market force. She found her validation through a different publisher who just stumbled upon her work on a social media platform called Shohungshu.
Mm-hmm.
And the editor there was immediately captivated by the title.
That pause hook.
That hook of the pause. And then, critically, the editor said she fell into the trap after she started reading the content.
Fell into the trap. I love that phrasing. It implies the content was just so compelling, so brutally honest, that resistance was impossible.
Yes. Once you engage with that level of authenticity, you're just pulled in. You realize, oh, this is the story I've been waiting to read.
And that moment just affirms her whole belief, doesn't it?
It does. It proves that there are people out there who are desperate for the truth. People who do want to confront the unpleasant, painful, and real.
The success lies in recognizing that vulnerability creates connection.
And that connection is so much more valuable than sanitized inspiration.
And this is really where her comic acts as such a vital counter-narrative. It validates all those difficult, often isolating emotions that society forces parents, especially mothers, to hide away.
Mm-hmm. When you read about the episiotomy prep or that overwhelming sorrow mixed with joy, you feel seen.
You get recognition. You realize your experience isn't abnormal. It's not a personal failure.
It's just the baseline reality of radical transformation.
The authenticity is what makes it resonate with everyone. It's a story about radical, self-recreating change. And that applies to anyone going through something profound.
Anytime you move from the known to the unknown, you are forced into that act of recreation.
Okay, so let's wrap this up with our key takeaways. The book, and our dives into its preface, I think it fundamentally shows that true greatness in life is rarely found in the neat, packaged, marketable moments we share on social media.
It's found in the messy, painful processes we try so hard to hide.
We have to just fundamentally throw out this modern myth of the pause.
We really do. The greatest achievements in life, whether it's creating a human being, mastering a skill, or weathering a devastating loss, they are rarely clean.
They aren't achieved by pausing your identity.
No, they require deep, often destructive effort that just annihilates the person you used to be.
So the application for you, for the listener, no matter what your current life stage is really the same. The challenges that threaten to derail you, the ones you wish you could just skip over.
The unpleasant, painful, and real details.
Those are the precise opportunities for growth. If you're facing a massive change, the expectation of a pause is a total lie.
It is. These huge challenges are actually mandatory opportunities to recreate and shape yourself.
Forcing the birth of that fresh person.
And the true value of truth, in this context, is in its power to accelerate that self-shaping.
How?
Well, the book's success is a testament to her willingness to share her own real stories, which provides relief and recognition to others who are struggling in silence. But acknowledging the struggle isn't just for others, it's for yourself. By fully engaging with the painful details, like that visceral reaction to the episiotomy comic, you stop fighting the reality of the process.
And when you stop fighting reality, you stop wasting all that energy on denial.
Exactly. And that conserved energy can be channeled directly into becoming that fresh person. The difficult details are what make the magnificent unveiling feel earned and real and understood.
So this all raises a really important final question for all of it, something for you to kind of mull over after this dive. The author notes that she hopes her readers will like her honest stories. So what happens when we choose actively to share our own unpleasant, painful, and real stories, even in small ways, instead of waiting for life to be perfectly curated and edited?
That's a powerful question.
How does that radical honesty, that refusal to accept the pause, accelerate the necessary shaping of a fresh person within ourselves?
It's this powerful idea, isn't it, that by embracing the unmarketable truth of our own lives, we might just find our greatest, most authentic self.